Today's scripture is Genesis chapter 27 verses 14 through 29. Let's read it together. So he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and she prepared some tasty food, just the way his father liked. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goatskins. Then she handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. He went to his father and said, "My father." "Yes, my son," he answered. "Who is it?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing." Isaac asked his son, "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" "The Lord your God gave me success," he replied. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come near so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not." Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau, so he proceeded to bless him. "Are you really my son Esau?" he asked. "I am," he replied. Then he said, "My son, bring me some of your game to eat so that I may give you my blessing." Jacob brought it to him, and he ate, and he brought some wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come here, my son, and kiss me." So he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed." Today's passage is connected to the content of yesterday's eye worship. To be more specific, the passages for yesterday and today are not two separate parts but can be considered a single text. Yesterday's message was about Isaac preparing to bless his firstborn, Esau, and Rebekah overhearing it and devising a plan for Jacob to receive the blessing instead. Today's message, then, is about Jacob preparing according to his mother Rebekah's words and receiving the blessing from his father, Isaac. As we look at this process through today's passage, I bless you in the name of the Lord that this may be a time to understand the lessons of the word given to us today. When we look at this incident of Jacob receiving the blessing, we tend to think that Jacob was merely acting according to his mother Rebekah's will. We see it as him doing this according to his mother's wishes, even though he didn't want to. Of course, his mother Rebekah's will was very strong. However, that doesn't mean Jacob was simply dragged along as his mother led. We can see that Jacob also participated and acted in this matter with his own will. Let's first look at two passages that show this fact. Let's read verse 14 together. So he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and she prepared some tasty food, just the way his father liked it. As his mother said, Jacob brought 2 young goats to make the special meal for his father. Unable to refuse his mother's firm will any longer, Jacob is seen putting her words into practice. However, the word brought here in verse 14 uses the Hebrew word. The word generally means to get or to obtain, but it also has another meaning, to seize and kill with one's own hand. So what does this imply? It shows that Jacob did not entrust this task to other servants but carried it out secretly with his own hands. Even if his mother had ordered it, he could have had other servants do the work. But it means he himself caught and killed the 2 goats to prepare them. Let's also read verse 15 together. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son Jacob. Rebekah wanted to dress Jacob up like Esau, so she brought Esau's clothes, which were imbued with the smell of the field and Esau's own scent. But here in verse 15, it is recorded that she took Esau's clothes and put them on Jacob. The original meaning of the word put on him in verse 15 is, and he clothed himself, or he put the clothes on himself. What does this mean? It means that when his mother, Rebekah, brought the clothes, it was not she who put them on Jacob, but that he himself put on the clothes when they were given to him. This shows that Jacob voluntarily participated in Rebekah's plan to take the blessing his brother was supposed to receive. Didn't Jacob hesitate at first? In yesterday's passage, he was clearly aware that he was deceiving his father, and Jacob knew very well that if things went wrong, he would receive a curse, not a blessing. I imagine Jacob must have hesitated at first with a great deal of fear. But as the plan became more concrete and progressed, Jacob himself began to participate in it. Jacob became more and more bold in this act of snatching the blessing, and eventually, he did not hesitate to deceive his father. The lying began as he approached his father, Isaac. The food was prepared. To look like his brother Esau, he wore Esau's clothes. Worried he might be found out, Jacob, with the skins of the young goats on his smooth hands and neck, goes before his father. Jacob calls out to his father as he approaches, but no matter how old and frail Isaac was, could he not distinguish the voice of the son he had heard his whole life? This could not be hidden. Isaac already knew that the voice of the son calling him was not Esau's, so he remains suspicious and wary. He checks one by one to see if this son is indeed Esau. In that process, Jacob lies to Isaac several times. First in verse 19, Jacob tells 2 lies. In response to his father's question, "Who are you?" Jacob lies, saying, "I am Esau, your firstborn." Is this a lie one can even make? The voice itself is already distinguishable, but Jacob tells this lie, and though he did not hunt, he lies, saying, "I have hunted and prepared the food." Then in verse 20 to the question, "How did you find it so quickly?" he tells the absurd lie, "The Lord your God gave me success." Isaac, whose bodily functions had declined due to old age, had Jacob come near and touched him to verify. Even after checking, he seemed like Esau, but the voice kept bothering him. He asks once more in verse 24, "Are you really my son Esau?" But Jacob lies to the end, saying, "I am." Jacob, who at first acted timidly, anxious about his mother's plan, now boldly deceives his father as the plan is executed. Seeing this side of Jacob, we come to realize this fact. Once a human being sets foot in wrongdoing, once they commit even a small sin, they can fall deeper into sin, eventually becoming unable to control themselves. When that happens, even the sense of guilt disappears. Jacob's lies go as far as to wrongfully use God's name. He says, "The Lord God gave me success with the hunt, so I was able to hunt quickly." This means that because of God's help, things went so well. In the end, to justify his lies, Jacob commits the error of even using God's name. A lie so easily gives birth to another lie. A person who had not even told small lies easily starts to lie. The content of a small lie grows into an uncontrollably large lie. That is why we must stay away from small lies and small evils, and always live a life on guard so as not to fall into sin. At first, in verse 19, when his father Isaac asked, "Who are you?" wouldn't Jacob have lied with a fearful and trembling heart, afraid of being caught? Wouldn't he have answered cautiously, watching his father's reaction, saying with a fearful and trembling heart, "I am your firstborn son, Esau"? But in the process of that lie being repeated over and over, and at the moment he became convinced that he had completely deceived his father, when Isaac asked once more in verse 24, "Are you really my son Esau?" Jacob was now able to answer boldly, "I am." Sin, if not realized for what it is bound to grow larger and larger. Recently I had an incident like this with my first child. Those who have raised children through elementary, middle, and high school years have probably experienced this. We set a specific time for using the smartphone, but after getting caught breaking the rule several times, we had been reducing the usage time little by little. And we had reached the final stage. The situation had come to the point where, if he was caught one more time, the phone would be suspended, taken away. The time allowed is very short. I don't allow a lot of time, but after making that promise I check once every 2 weeks or once a month, and the world is so advanced these days. I can see how much my child used the phone each day on my app. I happened to miss checking and saw it after a month, and for the first week, he used it well, according to the set time. But the next week, he started using it for double the time. The week after that, he used it for triple the time. And one day, I confirmed that he had used it for an incomparably longer time. I was so dumbfounded. Using a smartphone isn't a sin, of course, but breaking a promise with his father is not a right action, is it? I called the child over, sat him down, and talked to him quietly. "What happened?" He couldn't answer. "You know that Dad checks, didn't you think about that? You must have known you used it this much, so how could you do this?" He had nothing to say. What did I do? The final option was to suspend the phone, to take it away. What did I do? I increased his time. I didn't take away the phone, rather I gave him more time. The conclusion my wife and I came to was this. We felt that no matter how much we do for him, he's at an age where he can't control himself yet, so I told him I would check every single day, not to monitor, but to check in. Because if I had checked right after he used it for double the time that first time, the child would not have done it again. But since that didn't happen, it seems he thought I wasn't checking, and as it became a habit, it was bound to increase. I told him, "Dad will check with you, but this is really the last promise. If you break it from here, the phone will truly be gone." A week passed. What happened? I check in with him every day. You used it for 1 hour. Oh, 2 minutes left. I send him messages every day now. What happened? He is using it exactly according to the time limit, perfectly. Of course, I won't do this forever. I plan to do it until it becomes a habit. When you start down the wrong path, if you don't realize it quickly or correct it, it grows uncontrollably. The incident with my son and the story of Jacob today speak to us once more. Dear brothers and sisters, seeing this side of Rebekah and Jacob in today's message, what are your thoughts? The sight of these two people snatching the blessing Esau was supposed to receive no matter what did not look good to me, but as I looked at it not with human thoughts and standards, but with the standard of the Word, the content of today's passage began to look different. It is the fact that Jacob was reclaiming the right to the blessing he was supposed to receive. Let's find and read Genesis 25:23 together. The Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." Do you perhaps remember, when Rebekah was pregnant and the two sons were fighting in her womb, Isaac prayed to God and asked. God's answer was this: the older will serve the younger. God had already said that the older would serve the younger. The blessing of the firstborn would go not to Esau, but to Jacob. He had already said this. If so, then Jacob, not Esau, should have received that blessing. But Isaac, in this matter of blessing his two sons, followed his own will, his own thoughts, the son he loved more, rather than the will of God. Because of this, the family's relationship became strained. But Rebekah and Jacob longed for God's blessing and could not give it up. That is why they acted this way, thinking, even if I receive a curse, I will do it to receive the blessing. Just as Rebekah and Jacob loved God and longed for His blessing, I bless you all in the name of the Lord to remember that heart and to love God even more. However, when doing this, I hope we can do it according to God's will and in God's time, not with human thoughts, human methods, or my own ideas. God certainly said He would bless Jacob. If they had waited, He would have guided them in His will. But because they could not, and used human methods, they experienced the hardship of a strained family relationship. We must live a life that follows God's will and waits for God's timing, not our own thoughts and plans. And to do so, we must live a life always on guard, so as not to fall into even small sins. A small lie becomes a big lie. I hope we can always remember the fact that a small evil leads to falling into even greater sin. Therefore I bless you in the name of the Lord that today may be a blessed day where you love God more and also distance yourselves further from sin.